The train stopped in the middle of nowhere. Not a station, just snow and silence and the distant rumble of artillery like a heartbeat under the earth. We climbed out into a world stripped of color. Stalingrad was still 10 miles east, but you could smell it already: smoke, cordite, and something sweet and rotting underneath. The veterans said that smell never left you. They were wrong. It wasn't the smell that stayed. It was the hunger. I was with the 284th Rifle Division. Most of us were factory workers, farmers, boys who'd never fired a rifle until 3 weeks ago. The instructors at the training camp said we'd be in and out. The Germans are already surrounded, they told us. You're just there to tighten the noose. They didn't tell us that the city itself was hungry. That the streets had teeth. That the buildings watched you with windows like empty eye sockets. We entered the city at dusk. Stalingrad was a corpse. Buildings split open like gutted animals, their innards of brick and rebar spilled into the streets. Snow fell constantly, but it didn't make anything clean, it just buried the dead until the next shell unearthed them. The only sounds were the wind, the guns, and the rats. God, the rats. They were everywhere. Fat, black, unafraid. They fed on the frozen dead and watched us pass with eyes that held something like intelligence. My name is Alexei Volkov. I was 19 years old. I had a sister in Kazan and a mother who prayed every day. This is my confession. This is the story of what I saw beneath the Red October factory, in the tunnels that weren't on any map. This is the story of the thing that Stalingrad was built to contain, and what happens when war wakes it up. If you are reading this, know that everything I write is true. And know that it is still there. Waiting. Our first position was the Red October factory. The Germans held the east wing, we held the west. Between us was a no-man's land of twisted steel, shattered glass, and silence. The old workers said the factory was built on something older, a burial mound, or a church, or a prison. No one could agree. But they all said the same thing: don't go into the basements. Don't dig too deep. The earth here remembers things it shouldn't. Sergeant Orlov was my squad leader. He'd been in the city since September, and he had the look of a man who'd already died but his body hadn't noticed yet. He never blinked. He never smiled. At night, he sat with his back to the wall and whispered to himself, not prayers, but numbers. He was counting something. When I asked him what, he looked at me and said, steps. I'm counting the steps. When the number stops, you're already dead. I didn't understand. Not yet. The first patrol was at midnight. Orlov took me, Private Yusupov, and a kid named Kirill who still had milk on his breath. We moved through the factory like ghosts, stepping over debris and the frozen dead. The Germans had pulled back from this section, but we didn't know why. We found out soon enough. In the center of the main floor, there was a hole. Not a shell hole, too clean, too round. It went straight down into darkness. And from that darkness came a sound, a wet, rhythmic pulse, like a heart beating in water. What is that? Kirill whispered. Orlov didn't answer. He just stared at the hole with the eyes of a man who'd seen it before, or something like it. We need to report this, I said. No, Orlov said. No reports. No records. You never saw this. None of you saw this. He turned and walked away, and we followed, because he was the sergeant and because we were afraid. But as I left, I heard something rise from the hole. A whisper. My name. It knew my name. That night, I couldn't sleep. The whisper followed me. It wasn't words anymore, just a feeling, like something pressing against the inside of my skull, trying to get in. At 3 a.m., Kirill sat up from his bedroll and walked out of the bunker without a word. I called after him. He didn't turn. He just walked toward the factory. Toward the hole. I ran to get Orlov, but by the time we reached the main floor, Kirill was gone. The only thing left was his rifle, standing upright in the snow outside the hole. Bayonet fixed. Orlov stared at the rifle for a long time. Then he did something strange, he crossed himself. I'd never seen him do that. The number stopped, he said. It stopped at 37. I didn't understand what he meant until later. Orlov had been counting the steps of every man in his squad. Every footstep, every heartbeat, every breath. 37 was Kirill's number. The count had stopped because Kirill had stopped. But Orlov was still counting. And his number was 38. After Kirill, the disappearances became routine. Every night, 1 or 2 men would walk out of their positions and never come back. Sometimes they left their weapons. Sometimes they left their boots. The officers called it desertion, but no one believed that. Deserters ran toward the Volga, toward the rear lines, toward safety. These men walked toward the factory. Toward the hole. The Germans were losing men too. We found their bodies sometimes, or what was left of them. They were always smiling. I decided to find out what was in the hole. It was stupid. It was suicidal. But the whisper was getting louder, and I knew if I didn't face it, I would end up like Kirill, walking into the dark with a smile on my face. I found an old engineer's map in the factory office. It showed the basement levels, the maintenance tunnels, the sewage system. But there was another level beneath all of that, a level the map didn't name. It was marked with a symbol I'd never seen before, a circle within a circle, with lines radiating outward like ribs. I showed the map to an old factory worker who'd stayed behind, a man named Mikhail Ivanovich, 70 years old, who'd worked at Red October since the time of the Tsar. He took one look at the symbol and went white. "That is not a basement," he said. "That is a seal. The factory was built on top of it to keep it closed. The steel, the concrete, the weight of it all, it was meant to hold something down." "Hold what down?" I asked. He looked at me with eyes that had seen too much. "The reason this city exists. The reason the Mongols never settled here. The reason the Tatars called this place cursed. The thing beneath this city has no name," Mikhail continued. "The old ones called it the glod, the hunger. It does not eat flesh. It does not drink blood. It feeds on something else. Something only war provides in abundance." He paused, listening to the distant shelling. "It feeds on suffering. On fear. On the moment of death. Every man who dies in agony within this city, the glod tastes it. And the glod has been starving for centuries. But now it feasts." Outside, the artillery rumbled like a stomach. "How do we stop it?" I asked. Mikhail laughed, a dry, bitter sound. "Stop it? Boy, you cannot stop it. The Tsars tried. The Communists tried. They built a city of steel on top of it and filled the city with workers who never believed in anything they couldn't touch. But they never dug deep enough to destroy it. And now the bombs have cracked the seal. The glod is waking up. And it is hungry." He leaned close. "But there is one way. One way to put it back to sleep. You must feed it something it cannot digest." "What does it want?" I asked. "What can't it digest?" Mikhail's eyes drifted to the window, to the burning city, to the snow falling on the dead. "Love," he said. "Not romantic love. Not gentle love. The love that makes a man throw himself on a grenade to save his comrades. The love that makes a mother walk through fire for her child. The love that says, 'I will die so that you may live.' The glod cannot consume that. It chokes on it. That is why it hates us. That is why it feeds on our suffering. Because our love is the one thing it can never have." I left Mikhail's shelter with the map in my pocket and a weight in my chest. The glod. The hunger. I wanted to dismiss it as the ramblings of an old man driven mad by war and isolation. But I'd heard my name whispered from that hole. I'd seen Kirill walk into the dark. I'd watched Orlov count the steps of the dying. The world I'd known, the world of physics and logic and dialectical materialism, was cracking open, and something else was seeping through the cracks. That night, I gathered a small group. Orlov, because he'd already seen too much to call me crazy. Yusupov, because he was young and loyal and would follow me anywhere. A sapper named Dmitri, who knew explosives. And a nurse, Katya, who had survived the September bombing and had eyes that had seen the worst of humanity and still chose to heal. I told them everything, the hole, the map, the old man, the Glod. No one laughed. No one called me mad. They'd all seen things they couldn't explain. They'd all heard the whispers. We go in tomorrow at dawn, I said. We find the heart of whatever this thing is, and we destroy it. Dmitri the sapper nodded slowly. I can rig enough explosives to bring down the whole factory if we need to. That might not be enough, Orlov said quietly. I've been counting. He looked at each of us. My number. It's 42. It was 38 when Kirill died. It's going up. What does that mean? Yusupov asked. Orlov's face was stone. It means the Glod is counting us too. We descended at first light. The hole in the factory floor was waiting. The snow around it had melted in a perfect circle, revealing black stone beneath stone that didn't belong to any building in Stalingrad. It was carved with the same symbol from the map, concentric circles and radiating lines. A rib cage. We tied ropes and climbed down into the dark. The walls were smooth at first, factory concrete. Then they changed. The concrete gave way to older stone. Then older still. Then something that wasn't stone at all. The tunnel at the bottom was not man-made. The walls were actual ribs, massive curved bones that arched overhead like the belly of a leviathan. They were fossilized, or something close to it, stone that had once been alive. The floor was smooth and warm underfoot. A faint bioluminescent glow came from the walls, a sickly blue-green like the light of deep-sea creatures. The air was thick, humid, and it tasted of copper and salt. Like blood. Like the sea. Like something ancient. This can't be real, Yusupov whispered. It's real, Orlov said. I've been here before. We all turned to look at him. In dreams, he said. Every night since I arrived. I walk this tunnel. I reach a door. I never open it. Then I wake up. What's behind the door? Katya asked. Orlov didn't answer. But his number had changed again. I could see it in his eyes. It was 43 now. One for each of us in this tunnel, plus one extra. Something was following us. We walked for what felt like hours. The tunnel never branched, never turned, it just descended at a gentle angle, deeper and deeper. The ribs on the walls grew larger. The bioluminescence grew brighter. And the whispers returned, louder now, a chorus of voices speaking in languages I'd never heard. Some sounded human. Some did not. They were all saying the same thing. I couldn't understand the words, but I understood the meaning. Welcome home. Welcome back. Welcome to the feast. We found the first chamber. It was circular, maybe 100 meters across, with a domed ceiling of fused bone. In the center was a pool of dark liquid, not water, something thicker, something that reflected no light. Around the pool were statues. Dozens of them. Human figures carved from a black stone that seemed to drink the lantern light. Their faces were contorted in expressions of agony, but also ecstasy. As if the worst pain imaginable had somehow become indistinguishable from the greatest pleasure. Dmitri approached one of the statues. These are not carvings, he said, his voice trembling. Look at the eyes. Look at the hands. He was right. The statues were too detailed, too individual. Each face was different. Each pair of hands was positioned uniquely, reaching, clawing, praying. These weren't sculptures. They were people. People who had been turned to stone, or something like stone, while still alive. While still feeling whatever the Glod had done to them. We need to keep moving, Orlov said. My number is 44 now. How can it change like that? Katya demanded. It's not my number, Orlov whispered. It's never been my number. I thought it was the count of my steps, my heartbeats. But I was wrong. He looked at the statues, at the pool, at the darkness beyond. It's the number of souls the Glod has marked. And it's counting down to something. When it reaches 0, that's when it wakes. That's when it rises. We left the chamber of statues and continued deeper. The tunnels began to change, the bones gave way to something more organic. The walls became flesh-like, pulsing with a slow, rhythmic contraction. Veins, or something like veins, ran through them, carrying a dark fluid toward some distant center. The warmth increased. The air grew thick with a smell like burning sugar, sweet and nauseating. Katya touched the wall and pulled her hand back. It's alive, she said. All of it. The whole structure is alive. We reached the second chamber. This one was filled with memories. Not my memories, someone else's. They hung in the air like projections on smoke, a woman giving birth in a medieval hut, screaming. A soldier dying on a Napoleonic battlefield, his intestines in his hands. A child burning in a wooden church, her mouth open in a silent howl. A man being tortured in a stone cell, his fingers being removed one by one. Centuries of suffering, preserved like insects in amber, playing on an endless loop. It's feeding, Katya said, her voice thick with horror. It's been feeding for centuries. Every war, every famine, every plague, it's been here, under the city, drinking it all in. Yusupov was crying. He'd seen something in the visions, his own village, his own family. A massacre he'd witnessed as a child, something he'd never spoken of. It knows, he choked. It knows everything I've ever suffered. It's been with me my whole life. Orlov grabbed Yusupov by the shoulders. Don't let it in. It feeds on suffering, but it also creates it. It puts images in your head to make you feel pain, because fresh pain tastes better. That's why the war has been so good for it. So much fresh agony. So many new memories. He shook the younger man. Fight it. Remember something good. Remember something it can't touch. Yusupov closed his eyes. His lips moved. He was remembering. And slowly, the vision of his burning village faded. There is a way to hurt it, Orlov said. The old man was right. Love. Sacrifice. Everything the Glod cannot understand. It feeds on suffering because suffering is easy, suffering is selfish. But love? Love is the one thing that says, I am not the center of the universe. Someone else matters more. The Glod cannot comprehend that. It's like poison to it. Dmitri looked at the pulsing walls. So we don't need explosives? We need both, Orlov said. The explosives will crack its body. The sacrifice will crack its soul. We moved deeper. The third chamber was the heart, literally. A massive organ hung from the ceiling by tendons as thick as bridge cables. It pulsed with a slow, deep rhythm that I felt in my own chest. The dark fluid from the veins converged here, pouring into the heart from a dozen directions. And in the center of the heart, suspended in translucent membrane, was a figure. Humanoid. Ancient. Its eyes were closed, but its mouth was open. Feeding. Every pulse of the heart sent a wave of dark energy up through the earth above into the city. Into the war. That's it, Dmitri breathed. That's the Glod. Or its physical form, at least. It's not awake yet, Katya said. Look, its eyes are closed. It's still dreaming. But it's close, Orlov said. My number is 52 now. It's accelerating. Every death in the city above feeds it. Every shell that lands, every bullet that hits, it's all bringing it closer. He began placing the explosives. We have maybe an hour. Maybe less. As Dmitri worked, the entity's eyes opened. Not fully, just a crack. But it was enough. The pressure in the chamber changed. The air thickened. The whispers became a roar. Every painful memory I'd ever had flooded back all at once: my father's death, my sister's illness, the first man I'd killed, the sound he'd made, the way his eyes had looked at me as if asking why. The Glod was feeding on me. And it was enjoying it. "Don't let it in!" Orlov shouted, but his voice was distant, muffled. I was drowning in my own memories, amplified, distorted. My father dying in a hospital bed became my father dying on a battlefield. My sister's fever became a plague sweeping through Kazan. Every small pain of my life was being magnified into an epic tragedy, and the Glod was drinking it, savoring it. I fell to my knees. The entity's eye opened wider. It was waking up. Katya reached me first. She knelt in front of me and took my face in her hands. "Alexei," she said. "Come back. Remember who you are. Remember the good. Remember why you fight." I tried. God, I tried. But the Glod was so strong. It showed me the war, the endless war, the millions of dead, the futility of it all. It showed me a universe where suffering was the only constant and love was a lie we told ourselves to survive. And for a moment, I believed it. Then Katya did something the Glod didn't expect. She didn't argue with the darkness. She didn't try to logic her way out. She simply opened her own memories, her own pain, and shared them with me. Not as a burden, but as a gift. I saw her childhood in besieged Leningrad. I saw the brother she'd lost to starvation. I saw the hospital where she'd worked, the children she couldn't save, the faces that haunted her sleep. But I also saw the ones she did save. I saw the lives that continued because of her. I saw the love that sustained her. The Glod recoiled. I felt it, a shudder that ran through the entire chamber. The heart pulsed erratically. The whispers became screams. It didn't understand what Katya was doing. It couldn't process it. She was offering her pain freely, without fear, without the desperate clinging that the Glod fed on. She had made peace with her suffering, and in doing so, she had rendered it indigestible. The old man had been right. The Glod could not consume that which was freely given. "Now!" Orlov shouted. "Dmitri, now!" Dmitri slammed the detonator. The explosions ripped through the chamber, not enough to destroy the heart, but enough to wound it. The membrane tore. Dark fluid sprayed across the chamber, sizzling where it touched stone. The entity's body convulsed. Its eye rolled back. But it wasn't dead. It was awake. Fully awake. And it was furious. We ran. The tunnels were collapsing behind us, the ribs cracking, the flesh walls tearing, the bioluminescence flickering and dying. The Glod's scream followed us, a sound that was less a noise and more a pressure, a weight that tried to crush us into the floor. Yusupov was hit by falling debris and went down. Orlov grabbed him, hauled him up, pushed him forward. "Keep moving. Don't look back." Behind us, something was rising. Something vast. Something that had been sleeping for millennia and was very, very angry. We reached the chamber of statues, but the statues were moving. The black stone was cracking, splitting, revealing something underneath. Not flesh. Not bone. Something else. The souls the Glod had consumed were being regurgitated, reborn as something new. They rose from their stone cocoons, their bodies twisted, their faces blank. They turned toward us with the slow, inevitable movement of nightmares. And they began to walk. Orlov turned to face them. "Go," he said. "Get to the surface. Warn them." "We're not leaving you," I said. "You are," he said. "My number is 0 now. It's been 0 since we entered the heart chamber. I know what that means." He pulled out his grenade and held it to his chest. "Tell them what you saw. Tell them the war is feeding something. Tell them to stop. If they don't stop, the Glod will rise, and it won't just be Stalingrad. It will be everywhere. Every battlefield. Every death. Forever." The explosion took out the tunnel behind us. We climbed, Dmitri, Katya, Yusupov, and I, up through the shaft, away from the darkness, toward the gray light of a Stalingrad dawn. The rope was still there. We climbed one by one, and the last thing I saw before I pulled myself onto the factory floor was the darkness below. It was moving. Alive. And it was rising. Not quickly, slowly, patiently, like something that had all the time in the world. We collapsed on the factory floor, gasping, bleeding, covered in the black fluid of the Glad's heart. The snow was still falling. The artillery was still rumbling. Above ground, nothing had changed. The war continued. Men were still dying. The Glad was still feeding. But we had wounded it. We had shown it something it could not digest. And maybe that would be enough to slow it down. Orlov was gone. We reported him as killed in action, a hero's death, which was true, but not the whole truth. The officers didn't ask questions. They had too many dead to count. We were transferred to another sector, and the Red October factory was shelled into rubble by German artillery a week later. The hole was buried. The seal was temporarily restored. But I knew it wouldn't last. The Glad was still down there. Wounded. Hungry. Waiting. The Battle of Stalingrad ended in February 1943. The Germans surrendered. The city was liberated. But liberation is a strange word when you know what lives beneath the rubble. The rebuilding began almost immediately, new factories, new apartments, new monuments. But no one dug too deep. No one asked why certain basements were sealed with concrete. No one questioned the official orders that declared certain areas geologically unstable. The city was rebuilt on a lie. Or a prison. I kept in touch with the others. Katya continued nursing, eventually becoming a doctor. She never married, never had children. She said she'd already given birth to something, a hope, a defiance, in that chamber, and that was enough. Dmitri became a demolition expert in peacetime, helping to clear unexploded ordnance from the city. He said he was still looking for the right thing to blow up. Yusupov went home to his village, but he wrote me letters every month. They always ended the same way. I still hear the whispers. Do you? Yes, I hear them. I hear them every night. I hear Orlov's voice among them sometimes, still counting. His number keeps changing. It goes up and down. I think it's the number of people who know the truth now, the ones who've seen what's beneath. We are the marked ones. The counted ones. And someday, when the number reaches whatever threshold the Glad has set, it will call us back. All of us. The ones who escaped. The last thing I will tell you is this: the war never really ended. Not for me. Not for the others. And not for the Glad. It's still down there, beneath the rebuilt city, beneath the Volgograd that Stalingrad became. It's waiting. Feeding on the memories of the dead, the grief of the survivors, the slow burn of trauma that war leaves in its wake. And it's patient. The Glad has been here since before the ice. It will be here after we're gone. Unless someone does something about it. So this is my confession. This is my warning. If you ever visit Volgograd, if you ever walk the streets of the old Stalingrad, listen. Listen for the whispers. Listen for the counting. And if you hear your name, don't follow it. Don't go into the basements. Don't dig too deep. The war is over, but the hunger remains. And it has not forgotten the taste of us.